100 children to do one more again this year. The Queen Quet for this year place in Geneva, Switzerland, and the UN and things like that. Today, 100 children and no see me. Yeah, this year, brother, a cracky teeth or something we've been to celebrate just a little while ago. Black Solidarity Day. So we get the brother the cracky teeth over Black Solidarity, yeah, and him there from the UK. And half of get them real on Gullah Geechee Nation News. So how you doing, brother?
I'm really good. I'm really good.
So good to see you, man. Yes.
And you know, I've heard your interventions, and I'm proud of what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Both here and in the States. It's fantastic.
Oh yes, we have to keep the work going.
That's the truth.
You got this side sewn up, I got the other side sewn up. And we just throw it all together.
You know, this is a special place.
Yes.
And with so many people from African descent, we have to have that golden thread of solidarity.
Absolutely right.
And you know, in historical terms, I'm sure not everybody understands why we're all here, how we got here.
Right.
And I talked about the 700 years of a global discourse that has left us with a small piece of the pie.
Right.
And being made to feel grateful for it.
Exactly. And more often than not, no matter where you find us, we feel like if you give us the crumb, okay, we're happy. We don't think about getting the entire pie.
That is the mental slavery.
Yes, it is.
That is the legacy of indoctrination on the status quo.
Right.
And I call it, I don't call it, but I read it in a book, an African-American Charles Mills. He talks about the racial contract.
Yes.
The racial contract to me was a fantastic enlightenment because it explained to me an unwritten constitution that both the dominant race, world race, and black people had bought into it.
Absolutely right.
So we unshackled ourselves from slavery and colonialism, but accepted
mental enslavement.
Exactly. The status quo.
Exactly.
Today we talked about unpicking that, about being proud, about how we need to be self-reliant and how we needed to self-organize.
Exactly.
And nurture our talent.
Right.
This is our challenge.
And this is the challenge.
And this is a forum in which we can unpick and express that.
Right.
In a way, in a safe space.
That's true. That's true. That's a key word.
If you like. What is key for me, Queen Quet, is that we take this lesson of learning, of deep learning, away from Geneva.
Yes, we have to.
Into our own backyards.
And into our streets, into the roads, into the villages, and actually make it a living thing.
Make it a living experience, as opposed to a talking show.
Exactly.
So I'm encouraged because I've met people like you, I've heard you and others that are having the same struggle, but have the same dignity. Right,
and the same self-determination.
The self-determination, the same humility and humanity.
Oh yes, definitely.
So it's not just about us. Actually, we're the moral majority.
Exactly. for
everybody else. So I'm pleased that we're here this next couple of days, and I hope that we'll keep it.
Yes, most definitely. And it seems like I keep coming back to the UK. So now I have another brother come visit, and so that we can draw this together and keep it moving. Because definitely, when I heard the term Black Solidarity come from you, and that was really your resounding closing, is that it's really up to us.
That's right.
And that is key. We can be here in a think tank all day long and talking. But it makes a difference when we do something.
That's powerful.
Exactly.
Because you're not reliant on white liberals.
No.
Who sometimes say yes, but mostly say no.
That's true. That's true.
When you ask us, it's yes. Yes to justice. Yes to equality. Yes to humanity.
Yes.
There we go. That's it.
And there it is. And that's what we need.
That's what we do.
Exactly. And that's what we do. And definitely yes to minority rights being a living thing, not just a document. So my brother, I appreciate it. I'm so encouraged to know that the day from this side the water and things like that. For sure. So definitely, 100 children, this year what going on, and for sure, everywhere we have to keep strong.
There you go.
So we're so glad we're here. I'm encouraged by my brother.
Keep strong, keep blessed. And who God bless, no man can touch.
You got it. And you know what we say? Who God bless, no man can cuss. No woman can cuss neither. So you see, around the world, same thing. Yes. Same thing. So peace and blessings. Stay strong.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
From the academic community, Ms. Sefoli. Thank you, Madam Chair, for inviting me to speak about minorities, the status of minorities in the national identity debates of France and Germany. And I'm speaking as both an American and a French citizen who happens to teach German. The election of Barack Obama as the 44th President of the United States created a sense of euphoria, not only in the United States, but all over the world. And it created among black minorities in Europe and in Latin America a sense of pride. But along with that pride came painful questions, such as, for example, where are our black mayors in France, our black préfets or ambassadors? So currently the French are engaged in an internal debate, and at the heart of the debate is the concept of the Republic. Unfortunately, any attempt to organize communities to advance the participation of minorities in France is viewed as communautariste, and communautarism is a very dirty word in France. It is viewed as an attempt to really Americanize the process. It is viewed as a way to blindly apply the American model on a French nation that, unlike the United States, does not have the legacy of institutionalized racism. So, for example, diversity is viewed the following way. For example, in one article in the Le Monde Diplomatique, one observer says diversity is not a means to produce equality, but it's a method to manage inequality. So fortunately, not all French politicians share that view, and we have the wonderful example of Congresswoman Paul Langevin, who offers a rebuttal to that by saying that the Republic should be seen not in an abstraction, but rather as a living, breathing thing, and she contends that by excessively adhering to a historical concept of the Republic, one forgets the individual within the Republic and his or her aspirations of liberté, égalité, and fraternité. So currently there is a national debate in France on national identity. However, although the national debate is necessary, I believe that the current focus is wrong. The focus is more on La Marseillaise, and it should be more on an attempt to reconcile what is deemed irreconcilable, which is the Republic and also the mosaic of identities in France. On the German side, I would say that the national debate has evolved a little bit. Originally, Germany described itself as a country that was not a country of immigration. Later on, they said that they are not a country of immigration in the classical sense. And now there is even a forum on minorities, on the integration of minorities. I recommend that this body ensures that its recommendation be part of any national debate in each country, any national debate on national identity that will take place, so that those national identity debate will not take place in the abstract or in isolation, but within the framework of the recommendations of this forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we will have the representative from the United States of America.
Madam Chairperson, thank you for the opportunity to present today on behalf of the United States government on obstacles to effective political participation faced by members of minority groups. As you know well, the history of the United States includes the history of our struggle to achieve equality in effective political participation. And as with much of our civil rights history, this struggle is rooted in our legacy of slavery. For decades after the end of the Civil War and the abolishment of slavery, African Americans, Latinos, Asians, and Native Americans faced widespread disenfranchisement across the country, from Jim Crow in the South to English-only elections in the Southwest. For many years, the United States was operating far short of its ideals of equality and equal opportunity for all, drawing voting district lines in ways that result in reduced electoral opportunity for racial and/or language minorities, non-compliance by some states with requirements under the National Voter Registration Act to offer voter registration opportunities at public assistance offices, continued non-compliance by many jurisdictions with our language minority provisions, In the U.S., we've struggled for generations against the challenge of ensuring effective political participation of all of our citizens, regardless of race, ethnicity, national origin, or language. Today, we have in place many important tools to combat current voting rights barriers. What we need and what we bring to this debate is a strong commitment to doing more to eliminate barriers to voting for racial, ethnic, and language minorities to ensure not just equal access to the polls, but an equal voice in our democracy. Thank you.